now. All right, it's Monday night, and you know what that means. And by the way, welcome for the first time on YouTube. All over the
Oh yeah.
world, our fans. This is Joe Rossi, of course, your Fight Card Entertainment MMA ring announcer and reporter with my main man all the way in Indiana, 13-year MMA veteran, my main man, Terry House. Terry,
Oh
what's up?
yeah. What's
And you know
going
what that
on?
means, man? It's Monday night, and it's another Fight Card Sports Entertainment Chicago Bulls Last Dance edition talk. And Terry, I've been itching since yesterday to talk with you, man. We got a lot to talk about. Episode 7 and 8, my main man.
Oh man. Oh boy. Like last week, I remember last week we were going over episodes 5 and 6, and I told you I'm like, first episode kicked it off, but episode 5, man, I'm like that was the episode. I think that was the peak one, and then episode 7 happened, and wow.
And let's talk. Okay, let's jump right in the pool.
Boy.
Let's jump right in the
Oh
pool, man.
man.
Because I've been wanting to talk about this. We brought up some things that we knew were going to come up. We had, but before we got off the air last week, we discussed what we thought was going to start happening in the episodes. All right.
Oh yeah.
Let's start it off. Let's start it off with everybody's favorite GM, Jerry Krause. Okay, the press conference prior to the playoffs, 1998.
Yeah.
And the question heard around the world, okay, the backstabbing question. Okay, we all know Jerry got asked, what's going on with the backstabbing between you and Phil Jackson, this and that. Now, what got to me first reaction, to me personally, was that how I thought it was a little bit, Jerry Krause ran off. He was steaming, ran off. I can't believe you would ask this question. We're focusing on this. All of a sudden, thanks, Craig, the reporter, right?
Oh, Craig Sager, man.
I saw
beautiful.
Tom Shear. I think it was Tom Shear there, and the rest of the old school NBC reporter there, and this CBS. They're all like, thanks, man. But in a way, I'd say thank you, because I think it was where, okay, Jerry Krause knows he's in Chicago. We know Chicago media with sports, okay? They're on top of everything like sauce on pasta, brother, okay? So,
Oh yeah.
number one, I was surprised, okay, for a guy who I believe, maybe you do too, I think you have said it before, was the antagonist. So we go back to Jerry Krause, and on the paper, constantly, over and over, Phil Jackson's last year, this and that, and everything else. Instead of focusing on what was happening, he was talking about taking the team apart and getting rid of Phil Jackson. Okay, couldn't say it enough. And the hypocrisy of him getting mad and storming off like that. I mean, it was like, what did you expect they were going to ask him when that's all he wanted to talk about?
Right.
Tell us what you thought about that whole scene, Terry.
Well, first of all, Craig Sager, that was a beautiful question. It was good timing. It was well deserved. Jerry Krause, like you said, he was doing everything he can to distract that team from winning that 6th championship. At least that's what it appeared like he was trying to do. He was trying to distract them from winning that ring.
And let's not forget, every time Jerry Krause is mentioned, 99.9% of the time in this documentary series, he's been talking about breaking up the team, and couldn't say it enough. It was Phil Jackson's last year. I mean, no backstabbing. You didn't even invite him to your stepson's wedding, man. Let's not forget about that. And everything Jerry Reinsdorf said about it, that there was absolute tension, not to mention what Phil Jackson said in episode 1, there was no reconciling that relationship.
Right. Jerry Krause, I mean, we can't say it enough, man. He was just one of those old school short man syndrome guys stuck in his ways, man. He didn't feel like he was getting enough recognition. I believe he was. Truth be told, he did put the team together. He drafted everybody, so he got the credit where credit was deserved. To this day, it baffles me. I don't understand what it was about him that wanted to break that team up. You know what I mean? And just taking shots at him every single chance he got, taking shots at him. Negotiating the deal with Tony Kukoc on the road while you got Scottie Pippen on hold. It was just little things that he did throughout his whole tenure there to antagonize that team and then to sit up and get your feelings hurt and turn into a total diva. When you get one simple question asked to you, you know what I mean? Like
I mean, he
it's
ran off
unbelievable. The
quicker than the
hypocrisy is
Secretariat,
unbelievable, man.
man.
The
You know?
hypocrisy is unbelievable, man. And then it's a nasty question. It's a nasty question, and just walked off. He didn't answer it though.
He didn't answer it. Is right, and I never saw him move that fast in a long. And that's the first thing I said. I didn't feel bad for him getting asked that question. What did you expect? That's all you wanted to keep telling these same papers, the same reporters over and over. You know what I mean? I think they were getting fed up because a lot of them, let's face it, were actual Bulls fans. And it blew everybody's mind how you couldn't want, and we always said it, you and I here, they could have at least 2 more championships before it was all over.
Absolutely. Or at least give it a chance, give another team a chance to try to dethrone them. I would have, it wouldn't have mattered to try to win 2 more rings with me. But the torch was always passed throughout the years. It was passed from Bird to Magic to Bird to Isaiah to Michael. And then Hakeem Olajuwon had it for a little bit. Michael gained it back. Nobody took it from Michael. That's the thing. He didn't get those guys a chance to be dethroned. What I'm saying, to defend it to the end. He just dismantled the team, man. And that, unfortunately, that will be forever his legacy. His legacy will never be putting that team together, which is what he did.
Right.
His legacy will forever be dismantling the greatest team in sports history. I have to emphasize that I have to stress that it's the greatest team in sports history. It's not just the greatest basketball team in history. At the time, that Bulls team was the greatest sports team on planet Earth.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He dismantled it. That'll forever be his legacy. It's unfortunate, but karma. You get what you deserve, man.
And that's exactly what I want to say. He did it to himself. I mean, granted, I'll give it to Jerry Reinsdorf when he said, he brought Phil Jackson. Same guy he wants credit for bringing, he wanted credit for getting rid of, man. I just don't get that. You know what I mean? You remember Jerry Reinsdorf saying, if it weren't for Jerry Krause, you wouldn't even heard of Phil Jackson. The same guy who wanted the credit. I mean, total. It's like bizarro world, man. I don't even know how. You know what I mean?
Even the fact, it's not even the fact that he just was doing several attempts to try to break the team up. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. He was being a dick about it every chance he got.
Straight up, man. Straight up.
Honestly, like he was a complete jerk. Everything he went about it. Like you said, you in the middle of negotiating this deal with Scottie Pippen, which he screwed him royally. You know what I mean? And you hold Scottie Pippen to go negotiate with Tony Kukoc. You're overseas. You're in Yugoslavia. You're watching him, and you're on TV. Oh, Tony Kukoc is the future of the Chicago Bulls, and you got the alpha of the alphas. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You got Michael Jordan. You got Scottie Pippen. These guys are winning. You know what I mean? And what was the phrase? You say, you're picking somebody else's child over your own children.
Right.
You know
exactly.
what I mean?
Absolutely.
It was just
absolutely.
It's just unbelievable. Like if you see the stuff that he did, and it's just like, wow, he did that. He did this. It's like, like I said, his legacy is forever tarnished for that, as opposed to actually getting the credit for putting that team together. And like I said, that's on him.
That's on him. So we move forward now. Let's talk about the end of the first three-peat. It's 1993 now, and we're going to have to discuss the unfortunate situation of the murder of James Jordan, Michael Jordan's father, the tragic accident that it was. The facts were that he was tired driving, had to sleep over. It was late night, pulled over the road. Unfortunately, a sad situation occurred. He had gotten robbed, shot in the chest, obviously murdered. And prior to they were trying to find him for multiple weeks. I think it was up to 3 weeks. So this unfortunate accident, obviously, Michael Jordan's only human. Would affect anybody. The sadness that it brought, the heartbreak that it brought. But let's bring it all together here now, because we're going to break this down. Let's talk about first. It was brought up around the same time this happened, or right after. It was July, August of '93. This tragedy had occurred. And there was the big rumors prior to this of Michael Jordan wanting to retire altogether. Okay? Now, we're going to have to mention now also the whole, I want to say, they were so dominant on the issue of the press about Michael Jordan's gambling. I mean, unfortunately, as it was stated in the documentary, it felt like they had turned on him without even letting him give him a chance to realize, I mean, that he had a control on his gambling. They put this whole story together that the gambling was related to the murder of his father. And I mean, I felt bad seeing this all over again, that instead of wanting a beater for him, the same people who put Michael Jordan on the pedestal that he deserved to be on was trying to link that it was his own fault that his dad died.
That's typical mainstream media. You know what I mean? Like I said, you had the alpha of the alphas. You have the most popular person on the planet. You know what I mean? And for a long time, he was considered perfect until the gambling issue came up. He was a perfect athlete. He was a perfect male. So the gambling was something that they had to drill on him in order to find something negative about Michael Jordan. You have to understand there was absolutely nothing negative about Michael Jordan up until the gambling point, you know. And one thing about me, facts always matter with me. And like we heard all the rumors back in the day. His gambling debt. His dad was killed over a gambling debt. It was this, it was that. Fact of the matter is there was zero evidence to support every single rumor that was out. Every single rumor that came out, there was zero evidence to support. Fact of the matter is, he violated no team rules, no league rules, no laws.
Right,
You know
right.
what I
No,
mean? You can talk, you can address the rumors all day.
right.
You can conspiracy theories, but the facts always matter. Fact is, he never did anything wrong. You know what I mean?
And prior to this happening, obviously the gambling went to playoffs, the whole New York City deal in Atlantic City. What more do you want? Commissioner Stern even said there was no reason to suspend him or anything like that. Yet the press continued to hound MJ on this whole topic. And I mean, like I said, I felt it was a little disturbing to me how much they pushed the issue. The guy, I mean, not only was his dad passed away, the way he was murdered. I mean, they gave him no sympathy at all. You know what I mean?
That's the price of being a megastar, a superstar. You know what I mean? And such an icon and a public figure. You know, even on a local level, me being a local and a regional fighter and having a huge platform, like all eyes are always on me. And unfortunately, I have to choose the company I keep. I have to choose my behavior. I have to watch my mouth and my actions at all times because I have a decent sized platform and all eyes are on me. And the first thing that I say out of context or that I do that's somewhat off, I'll get ridiculed for it. You know, and we're in the meme age now, so I'll really get my
Right,
ass handed to me. You know,
right,
and that just goes. We're talking about the Megatron of superstars, Michael Jordan. You know,
right,
so they find something that's in the negative that they can get him on. They'll drill it and drill it and drill it and drill it. And even somebody as big as Michael Jordan, I mean, at the end of the day, we're only humans. You can only take so much. And
right,
they beat it on him so bad until it
right.
literally physically took a toll on him, you know?
I
So
mean, wanting to talk about his gambling is one thing, but to relate it when there was no evidence, like you said, there was no evidence. There wasn't even a slight of evidence. I mean, of the gambling being related to his father's death. Like I said, I found it very disturbing and sad. I mean, if you want to talk about him having a gambling problem, is one thing. Even though there was no evidence of that at all after even Commissioner Stern said it. But to want to link it to his dad, and especially, like I said, the way his poor dad ended up passing away, I mean, it's just mind-boggling. You know,
It's ridiculous, because they mainstream media, their job is to just report the news. They
right.
they they report the facts later on. You know what I mean? Their
And we
job
know
is
a
to
lot
get it
about
out there.
that.
Their job is to get it out there and get it out first. And that's what they started doing. And everybody's putting out the same story, trying to beat everybody to the punch. And it's an
Without
unfortunate
even
situation.
realizing, though, to remember, it's not only about Jordan. He's got brothers and sisters and his
Mm-hmm.
mom. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's a whole
Mother.
family had to feel all of that,
Yeah.
and go through that. You know what I
They
mean?
don't They don't care, man. They don't care. Michael Jordan, the media just doesn't care, and it's like I said, it's unfortunate, and I do truly believe that that's what drove him out the first time. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's what drove him out the first. It's my personal opinion. I believe they drove him out the first time. So
Terry, let's stick with the topic here. So it happens. The Michael's at Comiskey Park. The White Sox are in the ALCS, 1993 against the Blue Jays. My brother had season tickets that year, by the way. I went to one of those games. I got to miss school, and it was an experience for sure. But Michael was at the first game. It had gotten leaked out that night. I mean, Reinsdorf calls Krause up to his box. They wanted to make official the next day. Obviously, it got out. You saw Pat O'Brien there from CBS the same night talking about the big press conference that was going to happen the next day. Let's talk about leading up to that and the result of it. We have the press conference. He's going to retire. But what came from that was one of the biggest urban myths in sports history. Okay? Let's break it down. Commissioner Stern, Michael Jordan, and Jerry Reinsdorf. Okay? Now, we're talking about, as documented in the documentary, the whole conspiracy theory, urban myth, like I said, one of the biggest ones ever in sports, if not the biggest, was a suspension set for 18 months, and the deal worked out because of Reinsdorf not only owning the White Sox, but agreeing to pay Michael Jordan when he went to go play baseball, the same contract he had. He kept his contract with the Bulls. He was paying them that contract. Okay? Was it worked out between the three of them that he couldn't play basketball for 18 months, but he was going to be allowed to still show face with the White Sox? You saw Jerry Reinsdorf, Michael Jordan, and Commissioner Stern all say none of that ever occurred. There was no suspension. Michael was definitely wanting to take some time off after 93. Now you're talking about the man who came in 84 and built his way up to 3 championships, okay, in almost a 10-year factor. So, and I was just talking about this whole conspiracy thing with one of my best friends, Mateo, a couple of weeks ago, actually, that it was a cover-up because he was suspended, this and that. Now, we heard it from them that it was not. What is your personal feelings on that whole situation, Terry?
You know what? Honestly, the more I think about it, could be true. Very well.
May we never know. May we never know. Or
we, that's something that'll just that'll be just between the three of them and Jesus Christ. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They probably gonna take it to the grave.
The way I'm thinking, hell, even the truth about Watergate came out, man. Before Deep Throat died, I mean, right? Deep Throat came out, and him and his daughter, and he said I was responsible for the whole thing at Watergate. Then he died a couple of days later. I mean, it's as big as that when you really think about it. People to this day are still talking about it. But
it did happen. They did it the perfect way because there's no way David Stern could have went on TV and said I'm suspending Michael Jordan for 18 months. You know what I mean? So if that's what happened, they did it the perfect way. You know what I mean? He got his money. He got to play baseball. I mean, it brought huge revenue and media. I mean, he was fucking in Birmingham, Alabama with the Barons, and they were selling more tickets than actual White Sox. You know
And
what
the
I mean?
road
So
teams, man. And the road
it was
teams, bro.
huge revenue for the White Sox. Jerry Reinsdorf was still getting his money. The Bulls flourished in that one season without him. They stayed above the top teams in the East. It worked out perfectly,
Those two
So
years in the playoff runs, the Bulls went deep, man. They went deep.
yeah,
Jordan came back late, obviously for the second one.
that
And we're gonna.
Chicago Bulls team, that Chicago Bulls team is the only team in NBA history to win at least 47 games after losing a 30-point per game score.
Right, right. And,
So
and, and that should
that's
tell you
incredible.
something there.
That's incredible, And like you said, they were one BS call away from making the Eastern Conference Finals. We all know about the call.
Absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
they cheated us out of that game. You know what I'm saying? To get us to the Eastern Conference Finals. Who knows what would have happened then? So I mean, everything worked out perfectly. Everything worked out perfectly. Like I said, I honestly believe that happened. I
So
honestly
you
believe
think
that.
about the whole thing was okay. So I mean, obviously, then there had to have been you get suspended. There had to be some kind of fine, maybe. I mean, if Stern may have gotten some kind of money out of it for the league on top
Oh
of it.
man,
I
I'm
mean,
gonna tell you like this. Reinsdorf always paid his teams fines. I mean, Charles Oakley was Michael Jordan's best friend and protector, and every time somebody went upside his head, he hit him back, and Reinsdorf picked up that fine for him. He used to tell him back in the day, if anybody touched Michael Jordan, you get in their ass, I'm gonna take that fine for you. So Jerry Reinsdorf was really good at taking the fines. If it was a huge fine, the Bulls paid it. Michael Jordan didn't come out of his pocket for nothing.
right. There had to have been
Later
something where the
on,
league was going to benefit too.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I mean,
But the
my own
league, the league
opinion about it. I mean, it's like saying, I don't know. I really can't. I mean, new champions do mean more money, man. You know what I mean? But
absolutely.
the way I see it is, in logic, if I have to think that this could have possibly have happened, then you got to go to think that Michael Jordan's dad's murder was due to gambling too. Then I think that too. If you're gonna go one with the other, I kind of think you got to think that they have to. I mean, you know what I mean? What's the whole reason of him getting suspended?
I'm not sure you can do that. You know what I mean? Because you got to understand there was a criminal investigation with that, and they found nothing. It wasn't like a league investigation where they didn't find any wrongdoing behind it. There was an actual criminal investigation with the police, and there was zero evidence found. So maybe everything happening all at once is like, hey man, we know you Michael Jordan, but then we have to sit you down for. We're gonna have to, you know what I'm saying? We gonna have to punish you a little bit because you messing up. You know what I mean? So maybe that's how it went. I'm not necessarily sure that his dad's death was still connected with that because even to this day, man, like I think they looked into it again years
Well,
later.
they found it was two 18-year-olds they did catch,
Yeah.
correct? So they
Uh-huh.
never talked. I mean, you never heard anything about their motivation or anything, right? I mean,
Right.
they never
So
talked.
my guess would be it was very random. I wouldn't even go so far as to say that they knew that was Michael Jordan's dad. I mean, think about it. He was on the side of the road, pulled over. Some
Right,
punks probably just seen him, and you know what I'm
right,
saying, senseless act of violence, and it went from there. So
right.
you necessarily link the two together, like you said, because not only a league investigation, but a criminal investigation by law enforcement, and turned up nothing. You know, and so.
So one of the guys to this day is still trying to that was caught saying he was innocent. I mean, you heard about that to this day? Wanting to get parole and all of that. One of the two.
Oh, what? Yeah, like, and who's to say, man? When you get those high profile cases, and maybe I'm throwing conspiracy theory out there, but when it comes to a lot of these profile cases with these celebrities and big names, sometimes it happens, man. They find somebody, they find a scapegoat, they find somebody, and they'll nail them for it, and unfortunately, sometimes they do get the wrong guy, but you never know. You know what I mean? It's hard
Do you
to
think
say.
it's possible that somebody could come out? I mean, I don't know. Just playing, let's say, devil's advocate here, okay? I said, if you believe there was a conspiracy that they covered up a suspension for him, that maybe the gambling was linked to his dad's murder. Do you think ever one day somebody will come out and talk about this? Could these guys have gotten paid a lot of money to not say anything? I mean, Or is there
I don't know.
anybody else out there that may know something that didn't get caught?
Who knows? Only that person will know. It's all about their soul. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, you get confessions like that. A lot of people either find themselves, find God, or they'll be on their deathbed and just don't want it on their conscience anymore. As long as that's probably the only way something like that'll happen. Other than that, I think we'll never know. I think we'll never find out. So
well, I think it's best to say let's let James Jordan rest in peace here. And
absolutely, absolutely.
And as far as the
voice,
whole,
man.
these guys who got caught, only time will tell their situation, of course, and also, Michael used it to make him stronger. Eventually, as we're going to get to that now, let's so let's say he really wanted to play baseball. He gets to play baseball. And also, let's talk about it. You remember where you were at when he said he was going to retire?
I was probably in the street somewhere. It was the summer after my first year of high school.
I was about to. I ended my sophomore year. I was at home. I for sure I was at home that morning because it was. Actually, I may have been in summer school, man. 93. I could have been going to summer school.
And
I remember seeing that at home.
In Chicago, I was probably outside at 8:00 in the morning. Summertime in Chicago. It
was October 93. It was October 93.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, okay. So I was freshman year of high school.
Yeah, I was a sophomore, so I had to have been at home or after school seeing it. But let's take it from there now. We're talking about. He's playing with the Barons team, okay, Birmingham Barons. There, the White Sox top affiliate. Jerry Reinsdorf said because of the whole media thing, they had to start him at a higher level of baseball. He even said college kids right out of college, even all-stars, don't start at AA baseball. And Jordan gets there, and let's start off with the whole thing. He had the big streak in April. What was it? 13 hits. 13 games hitting streak.
13 games in a row. Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the meantime now, after that happened, a publication that adored him and loved him all of a sudden puts him on the cover insulting him, and that'd be Sports Illustrated, without even having an interview with him or anything like that. Straight up insult on the front page. And let's take it from there. Do you think there was a big motivation? Because we're going to talk about the numbers and what Jerry Reinsdorf said about his baseball career. But what did you think about that? Michael obviously felt backstabbed. You know what I mean?
It was classless. It was low rent. You know what I mean? Mike said it best. They should have came and did an interview with him, asked him some questions, and let him answer it. And then if they wanted to put the piece out, put the piece out. You know what I mean? And don't they feel like the ass? And they never got another sentence out of Michael Jordan never again in life. So it backfired on them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that was just bogus. There's no other way to put it. It was wrong for that. You know what I mean? And jokes on them. You know what I mean?
And this is what I wanted to say. Typical Michael Jordan fashion. I mean, you piss him off, he comes. I mean, he doesn't just prove you wrong. He throws it in your face.
Yeah.
Let's talk about his baseball stats. And this is way more than anybody expected. You learn real quick when you take shots at the throne, man. You know what I mean? As the saying goes.
Michael Jordan. See, during that 13-game hit streak, he was just seeing fastballs. They was throwing it down the middle. They was testing them. The guys with the big arm, and he was lighting them up. You know what I mean? And after that, they started hitting him with breaking balls, and he couldn't hit them bad boys to save his life. And that's when, you really started to see where his game was. And after the Sports Center piece, I mean, that's what he did. He worked. He turned his body from a baseball body into from a basketball body into a baseball body. It's two different sports.
And that's the thing, real quick.
Yeah.
People think sports. As long as you're in perfect shape. No, obviously you're using different body parts more than others playing different sports.
So,
you have to focus on certain.
I can get on the mats and roll for 24 hours straight, but I couldn't run up and down the basketball court for 20 minutes. You
Right,
know what I mean?
right,
It's just different, starting to stop and starting to stop, and vice versa. You get a basketball player, I get him on the mats, I eat him for dinner. You know what I mean? So
right.
that's why I tell a lot of people different sports, you have to respect every sport, respect their craft because it's different. Everybody is a professional athlete in whatever sport they do. And Mike understood that, and he worked hard to turn his basketball body into a baseball body. He got in the batting cage, in the breaking ball batting cage, and worked on it because they told him, man, they just throwing a breaking ball at you. You can't hit that motherfucker to save your life. So he got in the breaking ball batting cage, and he hit 200, man, in a season.
Right, we're
For
going to get
somebody
to that. We're gonna talk about his stats right now and what Jerry Reinsdorf said, and of course with the whole strike situation that happened in MLB, Major League Baseball. But so based on that whole thing, and we're going to get back to obviously the whole transitioning of the body workout and focusing on certain body parts when you play certain sports. That whole transition had to happen again. We're going to talk about that a little bit later here. But so let's talk about the whole baseball career. Now we're getting to the Major League Baseball strike. Obviously, we know he was playing baseball the whole time in Double A, and what had happened. And look at the final stats: average 200, 50 RBIs. Jerry Reinsdorf himself said he had actual baseball players couldn't play that good in Double A baseball. He actually said he believed if there wasn't a strike and Michael Jordan wanted to keep playing baseball, he would have made it to Comiskey Park in Major League Baseball. And that's the way it was going. You know what I mean? That's the way it was going.
What Mike proved, and this is what I had to break down to some guys I was talking to today. What Mike proved during that season of baseball is that, see, you got guys that's good at a sport. You know what I mean? You got guys that's a really good baseball player, that's a really good football player, or really good basketball players. Then you got guys that's really good at baseball and really good at football and really good at basketball. Michael Jordan proved that he was a great athlete, not just a great basketball player.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's what he did on the mental aspect. He got into baseball, like you said, hadn't played since he was 16 years old. And here he is, 15 years later, he's 31 years old.
31. Yep.
You see what I'm saying? And, in less than a season, he went from the greatest basketball on the planet to a really decent baseball player. And it says a lot. I mean, he was terrible when the season, first started, as far as like knowing the game and picking up the speed of the game of baseball. And by the end of the season, he was a really good baseball player. So he proved the fact that he was more than just a basketball player. He was an athlete. I tell people all the time, there's a difference between being good at a sport and being an athlete. You got athletes that can go out and play anything and be good at it. That's what Michael Jordan proved.
Right. And you know what? And I didn't realize this. I may have known then. I didn't remember. Number one, it was great to have comfortable teammates with you. Nobody gave him a hard time for being who he was or thinking that he was trying to be a big shot or anything like that. You know what I mean? But and Terry Francona, one of the all-time MLB greats. I mean, they have him. Definitely had to help him mold MJ. And Francona's a class act.
Walk in the locker room and say, "Hey, I'm Terry. I guess I'm your manager."
Right. And he took it. And we all know what happened with his career. Took off in the majors. Exactly. So I mean, I guess the stars were aligned. If he wanted it, like I said, I mean, it's crazy to think. And my brother, by the way, got so pissed off with that '94 strike, he canceled our White Sox tickets. Man, that was
See, that's a lesson that I learned last night. I didn't know that he had a run-in with Terry Francona. When I saw
I don't know if I remember. I don't know if I remember that.
Right. We were so young back then. Like when I saw it, I'm like, wow. Like, who was this ball manager, huh? Jeez,
but that's what Terry started, man. With the White Sox organization.
Man. Oh boy, yeah. That was a lesson. I like to say I'm pretty knowledgeable when it comes to the Bulls players, individual. Man, I can tell you about every Bulls player from Michael Jordan down to JoJo English, man. I can tell you the story. I think I'm pretty knowledgeable when it comes to the Bulls. I did not know that.
Right. It was great to see. And to have him on there, too, was cool.
That was pretty cool, man. Yeah.
So, that's just the way it went down. And like I said, my brother got so pissed off with that strike. We got rid of our season tickets for the Sox, and they could have won the World Series in '94. But back to MJ, man, how awesome would it have been if to live another dream and get to the point where he could have been in the majors? You know what I mean? So
he probably would have made it. It would have been.
Hey, Reinsdorf even said it.
He probably would have made it. That would have been huge for the White Sox. That would have been huge for the city of Chicago.
Especially during that time frame with the Sox being Frank Thomas.
Jackson status. He would have reached Bo Jackson status as a two-sporter.
Right.
You know what I mean? Bo Jackson was the man to do two-sport, him and Deion Sanders, I believe, too. Like, he would have reached that status as far as like a combo sport athlete, man. That would have been totally awesome.
Right. Think about it, though. At the time, we were the best in the AL West, American League. Could have been the best in Major League Baseball. Frank Thomas, we were stacked, man. That team was stacked. Some other players, you brought up Bo Jackson. Don't forget about Jim Thorpe, Jim Brown, a couple of other ones, ahead of them, playing the multi-sport athletes there. But, Jordan could have been the icing on the cake because they were already and don't forget, Jim Brown lettered in 5 sports in high school. 5. He lettered in Jim Brown.
Absolutely, yep.
But, who knows? That could have been the icing on the cake for the White Sox had there been no strike. Them bringing up Jordan, to play, because they were projected to win the World Series again, or at least go there in '94, and that could have been the secret. You know what I mean? The way he was going,
He could just generate revenue and media. Like, if he would have made it to the major leagues and just played in one game, the impact that would have made just to have him there. The sky would have been the limit. But
that strike hurt Chicago. But I will give Jordan. He was a class act though, where he did say he wasn't going to cross over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because obviously, like even Jerry said, they brought in scab players to play, and even he said it was the worst idea ever. They should have just let them have a strike with none of that going on. Obviously, adding fuel to the fire. He didn't agree with it. Jerry didn't agree with it. But Michael obviously was a class act, and he gave his word, and he kept his word. So he didn't cross over. As high as his career could have been, and obviously getting a lot of attention, he didn't sell out. So obviously that was a big plus for him and a look by his peers. So let's move forward from baseball. From the diamond, we're going to go back to the court, my man, Terry.
Oh, yeah.
Because what are some of the most famous words Michael Jordan said? Can you tell me some I'm thinking about right now as we get to our next topic here? There was 2 words he said.
I'm back.
That's it, baby. I'm back.
I still got that T-shirt. It's downstairs in my memorabilia room, but I got that T-shirt, man, and I got a copy, not the original copy, but I got a copy of that Chicago Sun-Times paper on the front when he said it. It's a replica. It's not the actual original, but oh man, I got a copy. I remember where I was when I saw that.
Yes.
I remember where I was when I saw that. I was actually in the house. I saw that.
All right, let's go towards that direction now. Before I want to, we're going to get to the whole I'm back. We already discussed it earlier in the program today. Without MJ, the Bulls held their own, man. They went deep in the playoffs. Well, MJ came back the second year late in the season and was in the playoffs. But obviously, the contribution wasn't. They had said instead of being 100%, he was 80% when he came back. The first year, though, without him, they always were watching. The media was on Michael Jordan. He was still playing baseball, and they would catch him watching all the games, of the Bulls, saying he was still a big fan of the sport, and obviously wanting to root for his old teammates and team. So let's talk about first the whole Scottie Pippen situation, okay? And the final play of the game, Scottie and Tony Kukoc. Break it down for us, Terry, and we're going to get back to the reactions after you discuss what had happened there, what everybody said about it after it happened. So break it down for all our fans here. And they discussed it and that whole thing with Scottie, Tony, and Phil Jackson.
Well, that season after Michael Jordan left, Scottie stepped up and he became the leader. And what a lot of people don't realize is that those guys started to contribute a lot more on the court because Scotty was a passer and a defensive specialist. I mean, he wasn't a scorer like Michael Jordan was. So if you pay attention to that season following Michael Jordan's first retirement, that triangle offense was ran perfectly because Scotty was a facilitator. He was passing up all around. The ball was moving. They had great shooters and Steve Kerr. You know what I mean? The big guys can shoot, Bill Winnington. So that triangle offense was ran perfectly. Scotty was a facilitator. He led the team in scoring because he was the man, but he wasn't a scorer. Tony Kukoc was emerging as a scorer. He was hitting the big time shots. He was a little bit of a better shooter at times. You know what I mean? So when it got to that game, Scotty wanted to take the last shot. He wanted to be
not
the
only
man.
the game, the situation they were in that game. I mean, at the end of that, obviously, were you surprised though, thinking about it today? Maybe back then we didn't think about it as much. That whole situation with Scotty not being there, wanting to still, we're going to get to that. But were you surprised that Phil Jackson, thinking about it today, chose Kukoc over Pippen for the last shot?
No, because you got to think about it. He chose Paxson over Jordan, and we won the championship. You know what I mean? Right. He chose BJ over Jordan, and we hit a big time shot. You know what I mean? Because that's what they expect. They would have expected Scotty to get the ball, and that's what you have to understand. That's great coaching. So why not feed it to the person that they don't expect? You know what I mean? And let's just be honest. I mean, I love him, but I mean, Scotty was a diva that night.
Well, let's get to it. Let's get to the results of all of that. Bill Cartwright's speech in the locker room. Bill Cartwright crying. Michael Jordan very upset about it himself. They interviewed him as well, and then to this day, they all knew, and even Jordan said, he goes, Pip knew he was wrong, this and that, and you knew he was. For him to say, Scottie Pippen did say it was one of the biggest things he regrets in his life doing. You know what I mean?
Well, a lot of people don't understand about Bill Cartwright. Bill Cartwright was the leader of that team. Michael Jordan was the leader, but in the locker room, Bill Cartwright was the leader in that locker room. He was the voice. Michael Jordan tried to bully Bill Cartwright, and it didn't happen. We could talk about all the guys that he pushed around and all of this other stuff, but he tried Bill Cartwright.
They brought up the whole Steve Kerr situation, which they didn't make up.
He tried it with Bill Cartwright. It didn't happen. You know what I mean? Bill Cartwright let him know, like, this is not what you want. You know what I mean? Bill Cartwright was the subtle one. You know what I mean? Everything else, all the personalities in the locker room.
He was the glue to keep all the different people together.
He was that common median, exactly.
Right.
And he stayed quiet, but when he spoke, everybody shut up and everybody listened. You know what I mean?
I mean, you wouldn't think about him crying. I mean, I think it was more they were heartbroken. Like, they felt betrayed, and they felt that Scotty put himself ahead of the whole team. And even, and what did Phil say? Fuck him. He said straight out, fuck him. Let him sit there.
Yeah.
And Tony stepped up.
That was like his 8th or 9th buzzer beater of the year.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was becoming constitutional for Tony Kukoc to knock down those. It was a constitutional right for him to knock down those buzzer beaters, man. It was like we expected it. He get it in his hands at the end of the game. It's money.
Could do it in his sleep probably by that time,
Like look, karma can hit you 10 years down the line, 2 weeks down the line. It can hit you 10 seconds later. You know what I mean? It's a bitch. It's a dish.
But it will hit you, good or bad. It'll come your way.
It will hit you. And at that particular time, it hit him right after he sat on on that bench and refused like in the game. You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to get slapped around like that, man, by life, and to get humbled. You know what I mean?
I did think though, and I agree with you 100% what you're saying as we're talking about it now. But I do got to give Scottie Pippen props, being the class act that he is, saying he regretted it. It's one of the biggest regrets he had. He knew he was wrong, and we brought up about the whole. We're gonna move forward now. The whole MJ Steve Kerr situation at practice. Michael Jordan was upset, didn't want to take it. He just obviously. Then the phone call was made, and Jordan, obviously being the class act that he is, made up with Steve Kerr. I think all this drama led to what would be our second three-peat. So let's break it down. You got the 2 years. Obviously, they did great without Michael the first playoff run. Michael comes back late in the season for the second playoff run. Obviously, it had come down to the point where it was realized that Michael Jordan had to do that whole transition again. He was only at 80%. Had to get back into basketball body form from baseball form. Okay. And let's talk about right now. Let's jump right in about the whole Orlando Magic situation, because when I saw this, it brought me back to the whole thing about with the Bad Boys, 7 years earlier. You know what I mean? That when the 2 years before they won, obviously Detroit beat them, and that second summer, Michael Jordan, first thing was, we're training all summer long. There's no vacation. It had happened with the Orlando Magic. And what does he do? His trainer thought, I'll see you. Call me when you want to start. Because I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that whole mentality.
A lot went on with that. There's so many layers to pull back between that Orlando Magic and that Bulls. There was a little rivalry there, and what people don't understand.
And of course, the trade that happened.
I'll try to make this quick. You have to understand, Shaq had come in the league, okay, and within 3 years, at 21 and a half years old, he was one of the 50 greatest players of all time.
Right.
He made that list before he was 22 years old. The Magic was a brand new franchise. They went from winning 18, 19 games to 50 games. You know what I'm saying? And Shaq has emerged. You got Penny Hardaway, you got Nick Anderson, you got Dennis Scott, you got Scott Skiles, and then Horace Grant go down there and becomes a star.
And that was the thing. That was the thing.
You know what I mean? And Shaq was basically put in place to take over, to dominate the league. You know what I mean? The Orlando Magic was in place to dominate the league, and he thought with Mike being gone that was his chance to dominate the league and be the man now and take over. And when Mike came back, he wasn't all the way back, and they actually beat him. You know what I mean? And what happened? I don't know why Horace Grant got the jawing off of Michael Jordan. And he even said in the documentary, he's like, I kind of knew I fucked up. Like, I knew he was going to have us on his mind all summer. That's one thing you don't do is talk trash to Michael. So Mike had Orlando on his mind all summer, all during that season. You know what I mean? So
they raised Horace Grant based on what you're saying right now, my main man. They lifted him up at the United Center, Horace Grant.
Exactly.
I mean, Jordan's watching them, and you said it got to him watching them getting elevated by everybody. They put him on their shoulders. The champagne was flowing in the locker room there. I mean, they were celebrating. It got to Michael.
But karma hit him double time. Not only did they go up to the finals with Hakeem Olajuwon and Sam Cassell and the Houston Rockets. Then the very next year, we all know how it turned out for them.
Of course, the Rockets. I mean, was the team that they repeated back to back when Michael wasn't playing. Or I mean, obviously Michael came back the second playoff run, but was gone the majority of the season that second time around. And obviously, we all knew, as they stated, still had to get. He was about 80% in basketball shape, not 100% coming back from baseball.
I wouldn't even say 80, man. I wouldn't even say 80. I would probably say about 65, 70. Because if he was 80%, they would have went to the finals.
Right. I mean, 80% Michael Jordan is like 110% for us.
Exactly. What I mean? 80% Michael Jordan would have took that team at least to the finals. I would say 65, close to 70% back. That's just my personal opinion, though.
Let's talk about now. We get to the point. Summer. They're working out. Everybody's following MJ, as he told Bill Wellington, I need you. I want you here with us. I'm flying. Grab onto the Cape because we're going for a ride. The fall comes. That summer, they clicked. Here comes the fall. What would happen to be, in my opinion, one of the greatest all-time. We talk about them being an all-time great franchise for the 90s in any sport. But one of the greatest one-season teams of all time in any sport to me are these 72-10, 95-96 Chicago Bulls. So Terry,
Absolutely.
break it down for us. Obviously, was Michael's desire the key factor for that to happen, and everybody else went along with it? Was Michael the
Well,
key ingredient for that to happen? What he
well,
felt after what
what he
happened?
did with those second set of guys was the same thing he did with those first set of guys. You got to think about it. B.J. Armstrong gone, uh, John Paxson
Who went to
gone.
Charlotte? BJ went to
Yeah, you
Charlotte.
know what I'm saying? Right. Horace Grant gone. So now we got Ron Harper, we got Pete Myers, we got Judd Bushler, we got Steve Kerr. These guys are coming in. And he made a great point in the documentary. Like, you guys are smiling and laughing and shit. Like, y'all wasn't a part of the first three championships. So he had to start over again with those guys to get him on
Right.
pace that he had other guys in the first three-peat. You know what I mean? So what he did was typical Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? He beat him down. I compare it to what I do when I'm training for a fight. When I'm training for a fight, I completely beat my body up until I can't move. And then once I can't move, then I train harder. That's how I build my endurance. That's how it's when I'm in that 15th minute and both of us is tired, who won it, you know what I mean, mentally. And that's what he did with those guys that second time around, because it wasn't the first set of guys. So you didn't do nothing but see a repeat of his greatness and how he was the greatest teammate, how he proved him being the greatest teammate of all time. Because you could be a great player all you want, but if you don't make guys better, it doesn't mean anything. So he did it the first time with the B.J. Armstrongs, with the John Paxsons, with the Craig Hodges, with the Stacey Kings, guys who would never make it on another team. If we're being honest,
Right.
outside of
Right.
Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, these guys wouldn't be playing hella minutes like that on another team. So he did
Right.
it with Judge Bushler. He did it with Pete Myers. He did it with JoJo English. He did it with Scott Burrell. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
That
Right.
goes to show you that he's the greatest teammate of all time. He made guys better. He forced guys to step their game up. You want to play with me? You have to step your game up, and
And,
that's what these guys did.
and the calling out factor. I mean, everybody wanted to, like the song said, be like Mike, or else you're going to get called out at practice, man. Those practices.
What he
Those
said at the beginning of that
practices.
season, Joe. He said at the beginning of that season, he said he said it start off and it started and end in champagne.
Right. 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 Right.
You know what I mean? It's the
Right.
end of champagne. You either get on my page or get the fuck out. He said, tell me that in
Right.
practice. Get on
Right.
my page and get out. Come back and try again tomorrow, you know? And that's what they needed. They needed that push. The same thing with Scott Burrell. He was on his ass, but he
Right.
said he knew I was gonna need him. What did Scott Burrell do that season, man? Scott Burrell was low key a huge factor in that season with the Bulls. You know what I mean?
You know what it
Because
seemed about Michael with all of that? Grab the cape and hold on, like we said before, what he told Bill
yeah,
Wellington. It seemed like that Michael brought out the best. You know what? He broke it down like this. I love everybody. Okay, we're going to need you to do this. We're going to need you to do that. Everybody had their own personal skill that Michael brought out the best out of everybody. And then they broke it down with Phil Jackson on when and where to use certain players for certain situations. I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely. If you look at the genius, which is Michael Jordan, his basketball mind, and we'll talk a little bit more about it later once we get into another segment. He watched his players. And that's what people don't realize. If you peel back the mind of Michael Jordan when it comes to basketball, he watched his players. He knew what he needed. He knew what their strength was, and he brought out their strength. And he let them know when he was going to need them to use it and made sure they utilized it in time. You know what I'm saying? And that's the genius behind Michael Jordan. This is what I need for you to do. This is what I need for you to do it, and make sure they was in place to do it at that time. You know what I mean? And then it got to the point where it became second nature. Guys didn't have to think about it no more, and it flowed beautifully. You know what I mean? And that season, they didn't just win, man. Like, it was to the point where, like, guys was by mid third quarter, these teams was ready to go home, man.
They pulled the Road Warriors in wrestling, come right in the ring.
Oh man,
One or two moves, and these guys are done.
Oh my goodness! I mean, and especially guys, you hear stories about guys who just tried to talk trash to Michael Jordan. Did you hear about the story with Kevin Garnett?
Yeah.
Kevin Garnett trash talk Michael Jordan. He was a rookie, and he was trash talking Mike and J.R. Ryder like, hey man, he don't really know how we get down, man. And Mike then already like, nah, he got to get it, man. And he's looking at J.R. Ryder. And J.R. Ryder like, what you looking at me for? I ain't
say nothing.
He said, and he said they was down 2 going into the fourth quarter. And within like 7 minutes, they was down 25. Michael Jordan hit it with 17 points in 5 minutes. Talking trash like, what you done, little fella? You done?
The more Kevin Garnett pissed him off, the more Michael Jordan made you realize you shouldn't have pissed him off.
Once he stood there and he locked knees and he stared you down, oh man, it's over for you.
We're going to talk about that, pissing Michael off and paying for it as we end this show in a little bit here. But let's talk about Terry. I'm going to think maybe you got chills like I did. Well, how awesome was it seeing when they said Scottie Pippen looked at the schedule? He looked up, looked at the schedule, and looked at this team and said, man, we may not lose for like 3 months straight here. How awesome. Did you not get chills to seeing that and saying that?
If they could have easily won 75 games, man. They could have easily won 75 games. If you think back to that season, man, I think they got robbed against New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. Kerry Kittles had a good game, and Chris Gatlin, I believe, scored like 37 in the game.
Let's talk about the 10 losses. They were spread apart, though. It wasn't like they were on a losing streak at all.
They would win at least 10 games before they lost one.
Right. That's when I thought it was just classic. He looked at the schedule, looked at them, and he looked again. He was like, we may not lose for 3 months over here, guys, at least.
It was to the point where it was like, wow, we finally lost one. Like a lot of times during that 72-10 season, like if I was out and like I was doing something, I would probably be at wrestling practice at school or something going on, and I'm like, man, the Bulls gonna win. I don't even need to watch it. I'll probably
right.
I mean, like, don't worry about it, they're gonna win, and then you look up and see, oh yeah, they won. Michael Jordan had 45, but Scottie Pippen had 30. You know what I mean? Dennis Rodman had 27 rebounds. You know what I mean? Like you already knew what was gonna happen, man. Like, and then when they lost, it was like, wow. Somebody finally beat him. You know what I mean?
And then you were like, what was Jordan bench? How many starters did Phil bench that they lost? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Michael Jordan took those losses hard. When they played bad, he would play bad and win, and he was still getting their ass. You know what I'm saying? Come on. We only won by 8. We played terrible. Wait, we won the game. It don't matter.
We're going to win by 16. He always wanted he didn't want his team to get it to their head, get a big ego. He wanted his team to let them get to their heads that they were unbeatable.
He didn't want them to get complacent. He kept them on the straight level, Straight level. He didn't want them slacking at all. He didn't want to take the foot off the gas. He didn't want to just win. He wanted to stick his feet in their throat and choke them out. You know what I mean? And he wanted to crush every single opponent, man. I mean, how blessed were those guys to just have somebody with that mentality, man? You know what I mean? That killer instinct. Not only did he have it himself, but he instilled it in them, because a lot of those guys went out and played like assassins themselves, man. Steve Kerr, he was all right in Orlando. You know what I'm saying? Until he came to the Bulls. He was decent. He came to the Bulls, became a straight up assassin. You know what I mean?
His peak was in Chicago for sure.
He left Cleveland. He had some great years with the Clippers, and the injury bug hit him, and everybody thought he was done. And he came to Chicago at the latter years of his career, and Michael Jordan brought something out in him, man. And Ron Harper was a dog his latter years in his career. You know what I mean? Same thing with Dennis Rodman. Hey, man, be you. You know what I mean? But let's get this money. Let's go eat.
Let's do it.
He brought out the very best. Brian Williams, man. Think about a lot of the guys that came and played with those Bulls in those latter years that was considered done. Nobody was checking for Brian Williams. Nobody was checking for Spider Sally. You know what I mean? A lot of these guys that came and played later on, everybody, you can talk about that team all you want to. Those guys had their heyday. Spider Sally won his rings in Detroit. You know what I mean? Nobody was checking for these guys. These guys came to Chicago. And Mike instilled a different fire in them, and they played so well in the second part. I mean, like I said, the ultimate teammate, man. Name one player in today's game right now, and I challenge you to name one player great that made his team great. That made the players around him great. Think about today's game. A lot of these guys will leave and go shine. You had James Harden and Kevin Garnett on the same team.
There's
James
no loyalty anymore to a team, man, or you know.
Loyalty. It's about camaraderie and chemistry.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
James Harden even go to Houston, and now he's a scoring machine.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, wow, like you had him and Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant together, and one guy leaves, and next thing you know, he's out shooting the other two guys he was playing behind. Same thing with Kyrie. He leaves, he flourished. Kevin Love, he leaves, he flourished. This guy leaves, he flourished. Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, these guys had camaraderie. It was chemistry on and off the court. You know what I mean? They played cards together. They went out to dinner together. They bowled. They played golf. They spent all of their time together. You know what I'm saying? And everything flowed beautifully on the court, man. There's too many egos in today's game.
I agree with you there. Yeah. And nobody, you know, like you said, too many cooks in the kitchen, as they say. You know what I mean? Head chefs.
Exactly.
Let's break it down now, Ter. Let's talk about that first playoff run real quick. For our what would be our fourth championship, the first of the second three-peat. Before we get to Seattle, then the finals, talk us about the rounds before that. How dominant the Bulls were in those playoff games.
Kerry Kittles played good, and he played New Jersey. Kerry Kittles played good. Chris Gatlin played good. I believe they had one of the O'Bannon brothers. New Jersey had a really good team, but it didn't matter. Blew through them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Second round, blew through them. You know what I mean? They get the Orlando Magic. Do you remember?
That was and I'm going to talk about Orlando. That was I think, more satisfying for MJ than winning a fourth championship. You know what I mean? That was the whole motivator for that.
Here's what the most satisfying part, which they didn't even mention in this documentary, and I remember it like it happened 5 minutes ago. Game 1, Orlando, that series. Michael Jordan walked up to Shaq. They were shaking hands to everybody, and Michael Jordan walked up to Shaq and he tapped him on the ass and said, "Y'all not even finna get a game, big fella."
Right.
Y'all not even finna get a game. And they swept them 4-0. That was probably, they didn't even mention that in the documentary. That was the most gratifying part. I remember that like it happened 5 minutes ago because they played the sound audio on the local news. Michael Jordan tapped Shaq on the butt. Y'all not getting the game, big fella. Went out there and swept them.
That was his main motivation. I think it was like a kid in the candy store wanting to play Orlando, not only playing but beat them to move forward. Orlando never won nothing. I think to this day Jordan loves that they didn't win anything. You know what I mean? And the same situation with B.J. Armstrong and the Hornets was the same thing. I mean, you know,
B.J. Armstrong knew better. He knew better. He even when Michael Jordan started to come back around and practice with the team, what he say, man? You know, you better get away from the game. I could beat you one-on-one.
Yeah. That was before he got traded.
Now he's in the gym getting his ass whooped. Michael Jordan got jeans and a button-down shirt on, and he's lighting them up in the gym. You know what I mean? Michael Jordan was the ultimate competitor. You know, you can't. You know, he took Jamal Crawford's Mercedes as a rookie. You know what I'm saying? Him and Jamal Crawford. You remember the story? Him and Jamal Crawford.
Yeah.
Jamal Crawford was a rookie. He was challenging Michael Jordan for shots, and they were shooting around. And, you know, Michael Jordan said, "Put your car up. I'll put my Ferrari up to that brand new Mercedes you got." And what'd he do? Hit 7 in a row. Boom, boom, boom. Took
that was it.
Plates off his Mercedes and pulled off in it. You don't play with Michael Jordan.
No way, man.
You don't talk trash to him, man, because he will not only beat you, he will end you. He will have you sitting down thinking about your life at the end, like, why did I do this to this man?
You brought up about BJ should have known better. I mean, don't forget, and real quick to go back a little bit, how awesome it was with Warner Brothers doing the whole dome mini arena and workout center for Michael Jordan while he was filming Space Jam. And one of the guys that he welcomed there was a couple of NBA players they were there to train with him. BJ was one of them. And like you said, you know, he should have known better to do that to him, you know, when he went to Charlotte.
Another breakdown of the genius of Michael Jordan. Like I said, I pretty much know everything when it comes to Michael Jordan. First of all, they built this man a whole training facility.
It was a dome, man. It wasn't even, it was a dome. You could have fit 15,000 people in there to watch him practice, man.
And he's invited. He already got Charles Barkley and Sean Bradley and Muggsy Bogues and all these guys that are filming with him. You know what
Reggie
I mean?
Miller was there too.
Let's bring out Reggie Miller. Let's bring out Juwan Howard. Let's bring out all the top guys in the league. And they're playing
BJ ended
pickup
up
games.
being there. Yeah.
They're playing pickup games with Michael Jordan. And they getting their workout on. And he's sitting there like this, watching them.
Right.
Learning how to beat them while they're playing pickup games. Who does that other than Michael Jordan? He's sitting there like, okay, Reggie Miller's going to do this. Okay, so I know how I'm going to get him when I get him on the court. Okay, Barkley, this is where he at with it. He's sitting there, the sky's in the pickup game, and he's taking notes, man. Like,
right.
Unbelievable, man. And then he come back in that season, man, and it was just, it's just time to eat.
You know what the difference, you're talking about today's game and Michael Jordan back then, and there was a lot of players, I think, that wanted to play like him, but the one thing Michael Jordan, I could say, stood out above the crowd was he never, despite all his success, Michael Jordan never wanted to stop learning. He never wanted to stop learning or improve his game. He never wanted to stop. He always felt he could go higher and higher and higher, regardless of all the things he already accomplished, which nobody was coming close to do anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he never wanted to stop learning.
They say the sky's the limit. Michael Jordan said that the sky wasn't the limit for him. He always tried to go higher and higher and higher. You know what I mean? And if somebody said he couldn't do this, he'd prove him wrong. He said Michael Jordan. He said the one guy with Washington dropped 37, the rookie, and he was pretty much a bum, but he dropped 37 on Mike. You know, Mike said, what he had in the game, I'm going to have it in the first half.
That was with the Washington Bullets, right?
They played him in a back-to-back. And the
back
kid
to back.
hit him for 36. And Mike, the next night, he on the plane. He mad. The kid was just humble, too. The kid didn't say nothing to him. He had a good game. Mike was mad. He said, what he had
Mike, because the Bulls did win that game. The Bulls won the first game.
Mike went to the score. What he had? He had 35. All right, I'm going to have 35 and a half tomorrow. And he had 37 points in the first half of that game. Like, LeBradford Smith hit Mike for 35.
From Washington was the player, correct.
He hit him for 35 in a game. Mike hit him for 37 and a half.
The next night.
Oh, man. Dude, you're not going to hear anything else. You've never heard anything else like that since then. Nothing, and like I said, it's just amazing, man. This documentary as a whole has opened up a lot of people's eyes. And I don't know if you're paying attention online, but this whole debate as who's the best and who's the greatest of all time.
There's no doubts now.
It's starting to slow down because everybody's watching this documentary like, whoa.
Two things I wanted to say based on what you're saying right now in the documentary and the whole thing about Michael Jordan. Don't piss him off or else you're going to pay the price. First off, I saw on the NBC Sports Chicago Facebook page, they did an article. Michael Jordan's Fleer rookie card has skyrocketed to six figures. It was a big story. You know what I mean? Based on this. I think it's one of the most expensive cards out there. Those Jordan 1s. When he put them back on Madison Square Garden, I went to commercial when they showed the scene where he would go, it's my last time playing in Madison Square Garden. Right, those are on the shoes, right.
Yeah. When it went to commercial, as the scene was playing, I knew those shoes are going to skyrocket. Right. But when it went to commercial, I looked online. I just happened to Google the shoe, $1,500 for the shoes.
Right. Oh. I ended up sending it to one of who's a card collector, a big time card. I got a couple of best friends of mine in that business, and I tagged some on Facebook. And the other one I sent, he's not on Facebook. I texted him the article, and I mean it's just, this is the impact of not only what this team in general, not just back then, but all these years later, the impact they still have today, and it makes you believe they're always going to have the impact. You know what I mean? So, based on all of this, let's talk about now. Let's get to the finals, the first championship with MJ back. The night before Game 1, they're all at dinner. Ahmad Rashad's there with him. Of course, MJ had a great relationship. If there's any journalist Michael Jordan could trust, was Ahmad Rashad. We're starting the series on the West Side, and in Chicago. they're out to dinner, and it just happens to be Seattle Supersonics head coach George Karl's there at the same restaurant. Ahmad Rashad's thinking he's waiting for them, for him to come to the table, and he sees them coming, and they're all thinking they're going to talk here for a few minutes before dinner, and right, like they weren't even there. Walks right past them. Now let's talk why this whole thing offended Michael Jordan. He got mad because, he thought he had more class than that George Karl, based on their whole relationship back in, North Carolina. You know what I mean? And they went way back. He was really surprised. Mike, I didn't know it affected him that much when he was talking about that situation until he started saying how disappointed he was, and he thought it was a bullshit move on his part. But then again, and what did he say? He literally said on the documentary, if that's what you want to play, this is what we're going to play.
Well, me personally, I'm not mad at the move at George Karl. I'm a competitor as well. You know what I mean? I would be in a hotel and I'll see guy I'm supposed to fight the next night. I don't want to talk to him. We can be brothers.
But I think the situation was because of the relationship they had.
We are talking about Michael Jordan. No, yeah, true enough. But like you said, I mean, when you're in that mentality, you know what I mean. Sometimes you have to play the sight game. I do it all the time. I'm in a hotel. If I don't want to come up and wish you good luck, and sometimes if I'm focused, it's a big fight. I'll brush them off, man.
Mike thought based on their previous relationship, but George saw it the way you see it. Well, even though there was a relationship there, he didn't even want to talk to him.
Until we get off the court. You know what I'm saying? We enemies. We can
Mike thought, as because they brought that. Okay, let's talk about it before we, obviously we know how they all went down in the finals. But the thing was raised about Michael Jordan that he had to pay the price for being nice to do the way he was on the court and being so competitive. But the one time the guy's nice, wanting to be nice, because of a relationship he had with Karl, he got hurt. It offended him. You know what I mean? Yeah. George Karl was pulling a move that Michael would pull, but even though I think that's what the whole thing was, you're talking from George Karl's standpoint, even with a relationship there, we'll hug and kiss after it's all over. Michael just, the one time he's trying to be nice while being competitive. He made them pay the price for it for not saying hello to him,
I honestly don't even feel Michael Jordan won't even have a conversation with him. I think he just wanted him to just acknowledge him. Right. I think the fact that he didn't even look his way.
Just a respectful hello, good luck, we'll see you tomorrow.
And at the same time, I'm not mad at George Karl. I'm walking past Mike too. Like, I mean, it's we in the trenches. It's war. You know what I mean? So I'm not mad at George Karl. It backfired big time, but I'm not mad at it. I mean, you want to walk him up? Look, man, I see you on the battlefield, man. You know what I mean? Afterwards, you know what I mean? We can hug it up. We can smoke cigars. We can take it to the golf course. You know what I mean? But right now, I mean, we're in battle, so fuck you.
Well,
like I said, backfired time.
It backfired.
Yeah.
Because everybody before for years on end, you piss number 23 off, we all know what the result's going to be, and it won't be good for you. It's only going to be good for Michael Jordan and Chicago Bulls. So, of course,
make you think about your life.
We'll leave it at the fourth NBA championship. They beat Seattle. It was 4-1, correct? We got it 4-1.
4-2.
4-2. Winning that, they did win at the United Center. The NBA championship there. So now, do you think people, the rumors that there was, we get back to urban myths, do you think Mike kind of didn't play 100% because he wanted to win on Father's Day?
No, I kind of think it just worked out in his favor. I kind of think it was just fate. I kind of think, that was just, God's way of looking out for him. You know what I mean? He's been through so much. You know what I mean? So I think fate allowed it to happen for him. You know what I mean? It was an emotional moment. I think I almost shed a tear last night watching it happen. You know what I mean?
watching him. I mean, that scene when he's just crying on the floor.
You remember seeing it as a teenager,
right?
You know what I mean? We were old enough to understand, but now that we're older, when we're parents, you know what I mean, and you know what I mean. It's a little bit more personal now that you watch it as older. You're teenager, you don't really understand, because when I watched it, I was actually with my grandfather who raised me from the time I was born. So I was sitting with my grandfather watching this. So I had my dad with me. You know what I mean? So now I'm older. I'm a father myself. I'm a father of 3. You know what I mean? And now I get it. You know what I mean? And it made you just more. So made you appreciate that moment more, as opposed to just being a kid and just like, yeah, you know what I mean? So it couldn't have happened to a more better
deserving person, right? Absolutely,
deserving person. You know what I mean? So I don't think Michael Jordan never threw games.
No,
I'll go out on a limb and say I don't know about playing 100% because he played 100% of the time. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I don't believe that he did it. I think it just worked out in his favor, and it just added on to the legacy that's just Michael Jordan.
That is Michael Jordan, absolutely.
Sometimes,
and you watching him cry there, holding that basketball was the icing on the cake to all of that. Yeah. Like he came full circle. You know what I mean? After everything that he's been through.
Everybody have that moment, some type of moment like that in sports. I was fortunate enough to have one myself a few months ago. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have that moment, man. Like, and I get it, man. You know, I get the biggest win of my career in my city with my wife and my daughters watching, you know, cage side, and it was in front of a crowd of huge people in Indiana, and the whole cities. Chicago came out. They came across the state lines, and in a fight where on paper I should have been done 30 seconds into the fight. I should have been laying asleep. You know what I mean? And here I am, dominating the top 10 UFC lightweight of all time. You know what I mean? You just had your moment. I spoke up afterwards. So, you know, you think about all of that. You know what I mean? And then I watched that, and I relived that moment 6 months ago. You know what I mean? And I relived other moments that I saw. Like, I mean, I took that real personally, man. Like, I had a moment, man. That commercial, I had to get up and walk it off, man. You know when you see
I've
something
had
like
moments
that,
like that in my broadcasting career too, when you're in slumps, this and that, but you come full circle, and look where we're at today. And I mean, we're here talking about with Fight Card Sports, one of the greatest dynasties of all time. I mean, man, and everybody can relate to that from back then to today. So let's wrap this up for this week. Let's talk about, as they say, all good things must come to an end, unfortunately. Let's give us your preview situation. What do you think is going to really be focused on episodes 9 and 10, man?
I called it. We talked about it last week, and I told you they were going to bring this up. And at the end of that last episode, the end of episode 8, Reggie Miller at the end, I told you.
It's coming.
It's coming. And a lot of people, like I said, you talk about the Utah Jazz. That's going to be one hell of a rivalry. You know
the Reggie Miller and the flu game.
But what they went through before they got to Utah with Rick Smits, Antonio, Dale Davis, Jalen Rose, Travis Best, you know what I mean? Reggie Miller, you know what I mean? That team, I mean,
we're going to have 2 more championships to talk about next Monday. And we're going to have, of course,
they had to go through them 2 years, too. They had to go through them 2 years because the Pacers was there both years. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, wow. I mean, people are going to, you're going to have a lot more respect for Reggie Miller. Yeah. Also, after that, you earned a lot of you earned a lot of respect. You had a lot of respect for a lot of guys coming into it, even though they lost to him. But people are gonna have a lot of respect for Reggie Miller after the last 2 episodes.
I remember when they played Utah, the big thing was, because they had Karl Malone, the mailman, and what was the big thing here in Chicago? Hey, mailman, the mail don't come on Sunday.
Don't.
You remember that? I remember that. Everybody kept saying that the mail don't come on Sunday, and we're gonna have a lot to talk about next week. Is man, one of the greatest documentaries and one of the greatest sports franchises of all time comes to an end. Episodes 9 and 10. Please do join us for our final talk here on Monday at 8 p.m. for Fight Cut
I tell you
Entertainment
what,
Sports.
really quick. I was
Yes, sir.
scheduled to work. I was scheduled to work this coming Sunday. I took a vacation day. I refuse to be sitting in my office at work watching this documentary. I need to be
I
at home.
don't blame you.
I need to be at home with a nice stick, with a stiff drink. You know what I mean?
That's
I'm
it.
probably going. I'm a big baby, man. I'm a crier. I'm probably gonna be in tears at the end of these last 2 episodes, man. I need to be at home on the couch, hugging my babies, watching this. You know what I mean? I took a
I
vacation
think
day.
the tears. I think it's going to get emotional. I
Oh
think it's going
man,
to get more emotional than we know because I think there's going to be some other things that nobody knows about.
absolutely.
It's going to come out as far as maybe the behind the scenes situations, Phil Jackson leaving, the actual end, some things that we don't know about that went down back then before it was officially all over.
That last parade. Hopefully, if they talk about that last parade, I know you remember just as well as I do. That last
Yeah,
parade was one for the ages, man. It was one for the ages. So like I'm
absolutely.
looking for the last 2 episodes, man. It's gonna be
This is
exciting,
it.
man.
This is
Oh
it.
man, like I hope they put this on DVD. I hope they put
I would think they would, or
something.
at least on demand, where you could watch it right
You
off the
know,
ESPN on demand, over and over
I'm,
again.
I'm recording every episode
I got
anyway.
them
I'm
all.
gonna save
I got
it
them
as
all
I can.
saved.
I need it on DVD. I need it on Blu-ray. I need something to keep
For
it.
sure.
I'm never gonna open it up. It's gonna be a collector. It's gonna go down in the room with all of my other memorabilia. Like thank you, Chicago Bulls, ESPN. They save sports with us, man. Like we're in a
Right,
difficult
right.
time. We're in a
And
difficult time. We are having better days, but like this is what we needed, man.
to
This is
overcome, the Bulls had to overcome, and we're
oh
overcoming all of
man.
this. We're all in together.
This this
And
is
on that
definitely
note, we want to say, without our fans, Fight Cut Entertainment, MMA, Fight Cut Entertainment Sports, all our gamers out there with Fight Cut
oh yeah,
Entertainment, we love you all. We thank God for all our fans and our
absolutely.
Fight Card family. And like I said, without the fans, the loyalty, we are here for you guys always. And good weekend with the fights coming up Saturday and the Bulls
Oh
on
yeah.
Sunday. You can't beat this
And
weekend,
it's
man. You know
almost
what I
time to
mean?
get back to it's almost time to get back to mixed martial arts full time because that's what we do.
I got to
We are
get
mixed
back
martial
to.
arts.
I got to
Oh,
get back
look,
to it,
man.
man. Here we go. Welcome.
Man, I've been sitting in this quarantine, man, and I've been watching, Terry House fights. I'm a little full of myself, so excuse me. I'm watching Terry House fights, and I mean, don't
And that's
don't
what I'm
don't
saying, man.
don't don't,
I'm keeping the
don't be
voice in check
surprised.
myself.
Don't
I'm keeping the
don't
voice in
don't be
check, man. I got to
surprised.
stay on
Don't be
top.
surprised if you see it happen, man. You got a lot of these young
Dude, it'd
boys.
be an honor to
They
ring announce you, Terry. It'd be an honor to ring announce and interview you. You know that, man. And it's an honor to have you as my co-host here.
It's a lot of young guys calling me out online, man. And like I said, I learned my ultimate
And
competitiveness
if I know Brian Angelo, he wants to know those names, and he's going to put the fight together tomorrow, man. So
Brian Angelo, look, man. Look. If anybody wants some, man. They can get it, man. I don't get ready. I stay ready.
on that, I'm Showtime Joe Rossi, your Fight Cut Entertainment host, ring announcer, interview man, and my main man right here, my co-host here for the Bulls special from Fight Cut Entertainment Sports, 13-year MMA veteran and legend, Terry House. And we want to give a big shout out to Nilo back in the studio and everybody working to make sure we're able to be here on YouTube. All our fans on YouTube, all our MMA fans, please watch Fight Card on all social media, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and stay in tune with us, guys. And don't forget, we'll be back next Monday. You'll see me this Thursday. We'll announce tomorrow our big Thursday Fight Card Live guest with myself and Brian Angelo at 3 p.m. Special time, not 4 o'clock on Thursday, 3 p.m. Tomorrow, I understand, if you go on Fight Card Entertainment, there's a big gaming situation going on with Prince Angelo there, and he's going against somebody from ranked number 3 in UFC, I believe. They're doing some gaming. That was on our Fight Card page. So all you gamers, Curtis Blades.
Oh, Curtis Blades.
Yes,
oh,
yes.
man.
They're
Curtis
going to go
Blades.
tomorrow. I think it's the championship. I think they're in the fire, a big one-on-one situation. That's for all you gamers tomorrow. That's Tuesday.
Blades, I love that. I love that guy. He's a great fighter. He went to De La Salle. He wrestled at De La Salle. I went to Dunbar. We all can't be winners. It's unfortunate. I still love him. He's a great fighter. He's Chi-Town born. He's Chi-Town bred. He's definitely a Region Red. I cheer for him every time he step inside the octagon. I'm happy to say I know him personally. You know what I mean?
And the same
And
goes for Prince too. Definitely a class act, one
absolutely,
hell of a
yeah,
fighter.
yeah.
Been all over the
He's one hell
world
of a fighter, man.
fighting. Has
Trust me.
represented
Yeah,
America.
exactly. So that's going to be fun to watch. I'm
Well,
looking
they got a
forward to
big gaming showdown
that.
tomorrow, so make sure you get on the
Would
Fight Cut
definitely tune in.
Entertainment page for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thursday, we'll be back at 3 o'clock. Special time on Thursday. Myself and Brian Angelo Fight Card Live. And we'll stay tuned for the gaming on Friday as well. And myself and my main man, Terry House, will be back on Monday night, 8 p.m. here on YouTube for the final installment of The Last Dance. Gentlemen,
Yes, sir.
our studio, everybody back in the studio, thank you, Nilo. Terry, my main man, thank you, my brother. Love you guys.
Everybody
All our
be
fans,
safe.
we love you. Have a wonderful rest of your night and week ahead, and we'll see you next week, guys.
See you next week. Have a good one.